Hey guys, Terp with High Plains Prospectors here. We just got a really cool delivery, something we've been wanting to get for quite a while here at the shop to test out. It's a product that we sell quite a bit of. You guys have probably seen some of our videos where we've done some rock crushing, and we got a load of rock from a customer that had got it from a mine, I believe in California. It's a hard rock mine. All the minerals that are in here, and we have crushed some of this before using some of our smaller rock crushers. You've probably seen our video with the pneumatic crusher, and we compared it to a little mortar and pestle where we crushed up some of the same material, and we got a lot of heavies out of it. We actually still haven't processed those heavies. We still do have them in hand, but we are witnessing a beautiful fall day at the shop, so we were able to open the garage door up and show you what we got. So before, when we crushed this material, we only did a few handfuls of this rock, not a whole lot really. Panned it out basically and showed the materials that we have. And we've really always wanted to get back through the rest of this material and process it down and get all the heavies out of that, so we have enough material that we can melt down. And I'm thinking that by grinding all this stuff up, we can do that. So we got this product that we sell quite a few of. This is a K&M crusher, and cool thing about this is we had a customer, we've been wanting to get one of these for a while to run through the rest of that material. We had a local customer here in Kansas City who also wanted one. He didn't want to pay shipping if he picked it up locally, but we have to pay shipping to get it to us. So we made a deal with him that if we pay the shipping to get it here, he would let us run through these 2 half buckets of material, get that all crushed down as small as we can, so then we can run it through a machine later, get these heavies all together with the stuff that we had from the past, smelt it down, and see what we can get out of it with regards to the valuable ores that are in it. So we got this K&M crusher, still how it came off the truck, and this is going to be new for me too. I'm going to take this thing, I'm going to unpackage this thing. I got to do some assembly, so I'm going to take you guys along with me when I'm doing that. It's going to be a learning experience for both of us, but I think it'll be pretty useful for anybody that might be looking to buy one of these K&M crushers in the future. All right, when you order one of these rock crushers, you're going to get it in 2 separate shipments. The first shipment is going to be the rock crusher. The second shipment is going to be the motor. They might come a day or so apart, but what we have to do is we have to take these, get them set up, get them together, make sure everything's running smooth. This is going to be the first time for me putting one of these together, so it should be pretty interesting to see how it turns out. I'm pretty mechanically inclined, so I think I can do it. I always recommend leaving your boxes together, keeping all the packing material when you get something new like this, because if there's an issue at all, something's wrong with it, you need to be able to send it back. So hang on to that stuff. So I'm just going to kind of inspect it, make sure that there's no obvious breakage or anything going on here. Everything looks to be okay right out of the container, so that's good. All right, now that we got the engine opened up, we're going to start opening up the K&M crusher. This thing is a little heavy. For one person, I was able to get it up here. It wasn't too difficult, but I would recommend probably using the buddy system if you're gonna be toting this thing around too awfully far. Not worth tearing your back up. And as I was unpackaging this, I was kind of looking for a manual, and it looks like they have that kind of tucked away neatly in the frame of this thing. So we'll open that up, see what is included in that. Like I said, this is the first time for me to put one of these together, first time for me to operate one personally. You know, I know a lot of the specs and stuff, but that's about it. So it's going to be nice to get some personal experience using this, so I can answer questions better if a customer calls in. Okay, so here is what you can expect to find in the bag that comes with your K&M crusher. Belt. Guessing that's a pulley. variety of different nuts, bolts, and the screens that come with it. Looks like some random parts, all tucked in this little bag that was neatly tucked in the frame of the crusher. And then what we have that came with a motor, it's like a makeshift wrench and a user's manual for the motor. So I'll go over all this stuff real quick and then get back to you on exactly what are the next steps. All right, this particular crusher that we had ordered has a 14-inch drum, so it's the larger drum that they sell, a 3-inch infeed, so we should be able to get most of the rock that we have into there pretty easily without having to crush it. Has a cap on the end to kind of self-contain everything. Down here is where the screen is, and that's where your material will pour out. They do send an extra screen with this one. Some knobs on the front, I believe those are so you can replace these if you'd like. 2 cotter pins, that's what you're going to use to put the pulleys on, both the crusher and the motor. These are the mounting bolts to mount the engine to the frame of the crusher. And it does come with the proper Allen wrenches that you're going to need. It comes with a belt. The motor itself has a user manual. You're going to want to go through that. Very important thing is these do not come with oil in them. They have just a little tiny bit of oil in there, so you will need to add oil. It recommends a 15W40, I believe. And then also that the octane of the gas needs to be 86 or higher. So a couple important things. We have everything laid out here. We're going to take this off of the board and get it ready to mount the motor on it. All right, I'm going to start by disconnecting the nuts on the bolts that were used for shipping. And they use a 7/16 on this one. Looks like most of the other bolts are 1/2 inch, so we'll know you'll need at least a 7/16 and a 1/2 inch wrench. So to give you an idea of what you're working with this crusher, what's going on the inside of it, we're just going to pull off this outer cover, loosening these wing nuts. And you're going to want to try to pull that off so you don't mess up the threads here. And so on the inside of this thing, you have these chains that spin at an incredible speed, just pulverizing the rock, and it's being churned up in here. And then you have these really small holes that are going to filter the material, so only the really fine material is going to get through there. Those can and do wear out over time, so they send you an extra one. You can also get these with a little bit larger mesh in case you don't want to crush your material down. In this case, we're going to want to crush it down as fine as we can. But yeah, one other important thing, and there's a couple places you have to do this, is you're going to want to make sure that these bearings stay greased regularly. And they recommend that you do it every time you use it and roughly about every 4 hours of runtime. Very important. Although the bearings can be replaced, you don't want to have to replace them any more than you have to. So keeping this grease is a very important thing. Okay, the first thing you're going to want to do whenever you get all of this stuff laid out is start by putting the pulleys on here. As I mentioned, they come with a little cotter pin. You're going to just slide that on, line the motor up, and you're going to push it back onto there, just a little past flush. And then you're going to tighten it, but you're not going to tighten it all the way. Just enough to keep everything in place. When you're putting this pulley on, you'll notice that there is a little set screw in the back. That needs to be towards the motor. And again, we're not going to set it very tight, just enough to stop it from moving, because we still have to line the belts up. So we're just going to barely tighten that. Now the engine, you have to remove this little sleeve. It comes with a cotter pin already in it. And you're going to do the same thing with it. Line the cotter pin up. And again, we're just going to go a little past flush and then tighten the cotter pin, or excuse me, the set screw in the back just a little bit. Really just not even completely hand tight, just get it to where it's not sliding back and forth. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take that motor, we're going to go set it up there. I think prior to doing that, these are your tensioning bolts. And what they're going to do is they're going to allow you to provide the right amount of tension to the belt once you get it on there. These little nuts that are the non-locking nuts that you see, those are to be able to, once you get this where it needs to be, you can lock that thing into place. You can set it into place so it's not moving. So we'll get both of these put in there. And again, for now, we don't really need to tighten them or get them too far down in there. We can do that once we get the motor on. Okay, so we are on kind of the back, what I'm going to call the back side here. And you'll see there's the holes in the engine where you're going to put the bolts through. And then there are slots on the bottom of the frame for the crusher so you can adjust it and get the right tension. You're going to take these hardened screws, kind of get them lined up in there where they need to be on both this side and on the back side, right up under there. We're not going to worry about locking them in place right now. We're just going to go ahead and get them set down in there. The ones on the back side are a little harder to get to, but not too bad. And you're going to want to make sure you put the bolt through the washer first. You're going to want a washer on top and a washer on bottom. And we're not going to tighten these too tight right now. We're just going to kind of get them hand tight. All right, now I'm going to kind of want to come back to my Allen wrench here. First thing I got to do is, kind of get these, I got to get these pulleys lined up. And right now I just kind of got them on there really lightly. Everything's kind of loose right now, so we can get it adjusted how it needs to be. I'm gonna get the belt on there, kind of loose to start out with. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten these bolts down just a little bit more. First, I want to do kind of a visual. It's not moving much this way, so I should be able to get that pretty well lined up straight visually and it not move a whole lot. I'm going to go ahead and tighten down the set key on the motor, or on the crusher pulley. So I don't think it'll be moving anymore. I'm going to want to get this nice and snug. I'm going to leave this one a little loose for now, in case I need to do some fine tuning after I get these bolts tightened down. I got 2 1/2 inch, got 1 wrench, 1 socket. Again, I'm not going to quite wrench these down yet. I want to get it snug. Now that I got the bolts for the engine mount snug, I'm going to screw the tensioning bolts into where it makes contact with the motor. All right, once I got those where they're lined up, I'm gonna go back. Double check that everything's lined up on my pulleys. Motor isn't moving a whole lot now, so I can comfortably tighten the set screw. Now we're gonna use our wrench to get this belt nice and tight. And I want to do this evenly, kind of paying attention. You want to make sure that these pulleys are nice and square with one another. I can see this left one is maybe a little further in, so I'm going to focus on getting the right tightened up. And as I start tightening these, you'll see that belt. I'm tightening them evenly, a little bit on the right, a little bit on the left. Kind of paying attention, make sure everything is nice and square. You'll see that belt just slowly start tightening up. There we go. That's plenty tight. Once I get the tensioning bolts and the belt how it needs to be, I'm going to take these nuts on the tensioning bolts. I'm going to tighten them down to lock everything in place. And this thing is pretty well ready to go at this point. We just need to get some oil, some gas, go ahead and grease the bearings before we get started. I don't think I have time for that today. We'll finish this little segment up tomorrow, hopefully. And if all works out well, we'll be crushing some rock here in the next 24 hours. All right, so next step before we get this thing running is to grease the bearings. You'll notice there's a little grease zerk right here, and then also inside the machine on this bearing. So we got our little grease gun. We're gonna put a little grease in there, put some oil in it, put some gas in it, and fire it up. Got a little bucket set up here underneath it. And we'll see how well this thing fires up and operates. Like I said, we got about two half 5 gallon buckets, so about a 5 gallon bucket worth. We're just kind of curious to see how fast it'll run through it. We actually fired it up once. We just didn't want to look like idiots whenever we were firing it up for the first time. Got it running, started right up, took just a couple pulls to get the gas primed in there. It ran like a charm. We were kind of concerned that it might vibrate itself off of this little table that we have it on it. Jiggled around a little bit, so we just put a little clamp on it. I think that's going to hold it in place just fine. So we're going to start running this material. Should be fun. This is our first time using it. Rocks in it. You can see we got a large amount of material here. Powder. That is, yeah, down to a powder. So hopefully we can extract some metals out of there with a sluice box or something like that. We got a little bit more to do. I'm gonna come out another day. I gotta get going today. Finish up the rest of what we got. That was cool. I'd say you did a good job. So we just wrapped up, ground up about almost a full 5 gallon buckets of material. And I just wanted to kind of show you what the end result was. Some leaves blew in here. Super fine stuff. And it did not clog up a bit down here at the bottom where the screen is. I threw a couple rocks in there too quick at the top. They were too big to clogged it up to shut down and get them out. That only took a couple seconds, but I mean, I bet we only ran this thing for total run time of maybe 20-30 minutes and got all of this material. It's about 3/4 of a 5-gallon bucket. So I am thoroughly impressed with how this thing works. It does a great job.